Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. In this video, I'm going to go over one of the biggest car buying mistakes that I have made on my Turo journey, and it's actually something that I am currently dealing with. I'm going to go over 3 reasons why it was a mistake and 3 options that I have to get out of it. Now, I know typically in my videos, I'm advising you guys on what to do, but this video is going to be all about what not to do. I really want to make sure that you walk away with getting a clear picture of what mistake not to do. Learn from me and what I've done so that you don't ever have to do this. I've been reading through the comments and your guys' messages, and I know that there are so many of you guys out there that are looking to get started, and I hear the sort of apprehension that you guys have because you don't know exactly where to start or what's the best way to buy a car and really how to avoid the mistakes that I made. So the car that has been a huge pain in my side has been one of my BMWs. It is not the X4, so let's go take a look at which BMW it is and why it's been such a big mistake. Ladies and gentlemen, my 2018 BMW 640i. Now, just by looking at it, you would think that this car would do amazing in Southern California. It has a beautiful soft top convertible, an amazing red interior, and it just displays very nicely. But my first mistake was that I purchased this car and didn't lease it. I typically do a 2-year lease. I've had this car for about 2 years now, and if I did follow my leasing strategy, I'd be able to get out of this car right now. But right now, I'm stuck, so I'm gonna have to find a way out. Now, of course, everyone has a different strategy when it comes to getting cars for the Turo platform. If you've been following me, then you know that my favorite method of acquiring cars for Turo is by way of leasing. I love leasing because the commitment time is much shorter. I typically do a 2 to 3 year lease, and what I love about leases is that once you start hitting that halfway mark through a lease, you'll notice that the dealership is going to start reaching out to you with special offers, right? They'll offer you a different car, maybe a newer model, a different class, a different series, and they'll even do things like, oh, if you switch out over into this car, you'll save $200 on your payment. So it just allows you for so much more flexibility. And right now, I was really wishing that my 640i was a lease, but it's not. It was a purchase. And what would happen if I went to a dealership today to trade it in and to try to get into another car like my BMW X4 that performed so well on the platform is that it would likely have much more negative equity in it than I would be happy with. And that's why when you are getting into the Turo platform, you really have to do your homework, do your research so that you don't get into a situation that could really negatively impact you financially, because that's some serious money we're talking about, and you just don't want to get stuck with that type of debt. Now, in a couple of minutes, I'm going to go over what my options are to get out of a situation like this in case you are finding yourself in a situation like this. So hopefully you guys find that of some use, and you know what, just avoid the mistake that I made. Go for a lease. It just ends up being such a better way of doing this and giving you so much more flexibility. Real quick, guys, if you guys are liking this video so far and hopefully finding some value in it, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to my Saimah's Experience channel. Okay, so mistake 2 and 3 kind of go hand in hand. The first one is that I made my buying decision off of my own perception of the car. In my head, I told myself, okay, I live in Southern California. Obviously, I know this area. I obviously know that we have great weather. People love BMWs here because you see them everywhere. And when people come to town, they want a convertible because they want to go cruise down PCH. I have other convertibles on the platform and they have always performed well. So this beautiful white 640i with red interior, carbon fiber trimming, just all the bells and whistles, of course it's gonna do well. But no, that was not the case. Don't let your mind fool you when you see something pretty into assuming that just because you think it's pretty and you perceive it to be a certain way that it's going to perform well, because that is not the case. So my second and third mistake were that, one, do your research. I didn't do my research, and had I had done my research, the data from the market would have suggested that I make a different buying decision. So you really have to comb the market and look at what cars are performing well, what cars are getting consistent bookings, where do you see the most frequency for the day rate that makes the most sense for the car, and what car can you get where the cost of ownership isn't going to be an arm and a leg and you can still make your margins. Had I had done that research, I would have known to buy a different car, but I didn't do it. I went off of my own perception of the car. Now, the part 3 of that mistake is that if I had done my research, I would have realized that people don't necessarily prefer a higher end version of a brand. So I guess what I mean by that is, now for BMW, you know, the higher end series of BMWs are the 6 Series, the 7 Series, and now they recently actually did away with the 6 Series and came out with the 8 Series. What I've realized that when it comes specifically to the purpose of a rental, when people are coming into town and they're looking for a car for their vacation, they don't really care if it's a 6 Series or if it's a 2 Series BMW. What they care about is that it's a BMW and that it's a convertible top. So of course, naturally, going higher end in a brand is going to have a higher cost of ownership. And that's going to mean that maybe there isn't as many margins as if you were to go towards something that is a lower series. So what I should have actually done is gone with probably a 2 Series convertible or a 4 Series convertible, because to the renter, all that they want to see is that it's a BMW and that it's a convertible. They're not necessarily looking to see or specifically looking for a 6 Series. Now, this BMW X4 is a prime example of that. This is on the lower side of the BMW totem pole. These X Series, they go all the way up to an X7, which is incredibly gorgeous, but it's also very expensive to own. And I'm willing to bet that the day rates between an X4 and an X7 are not that different, but the cost of ownership is huge. Huge. So you would see more margins on something like an X4 or an X3 than you likely would on something like an X7. So the key takeaway for me in this market, what I have noticed is that if you go with a name brand, but you go with a lower series or a lower class, you typically tend to see better margins. Now, that's just in my opinion and in my experience, and I think that that's part of a big part of the mistake that I made with my 6 Series BMW. So it's been an interesting learning experience. I wish I had known better before, but listen, that is the part of being in business, is that you make mistakes, and it is such a learning experience that you kind of have to go through the motions so that you make better decisions moving forward. And it's definitely not a reason to quit or not to keep moving forward. You just have to find a better way out of it. So let's go over what my options are to get me out of this awful mistake that I've made. One last bit on doing research. So not only do you need to do market research, but you need to get a really good understanding of how Turo works. The other thing that really killed me with the 640i is the fact that because of the market value of the car being so high, it got classified as a super deluxe car. And what that means is that typically Turo has certain requirements for people to rent a car that is considered super deluxe, of course, for obvious insurance risk reasons, right? So when a car gets classified as super deluxe, you do have to be 30 plus to rent that car, and it typically requires that you put down a deposit. Now, immediately that creates additional barriers for rentals, right? So I get limited right away because I'm just doing away with a good portion of people that rent on the platform that can now no longer rent my car. So that also really put me at a disadvantage, and I did not realize that when I was going into getting that 640i. Now, I am going to post a link in the description below so that you guys can read about which cars qualify as deluxe and super deluxe and kind of what restrictions are set into place for those cars because of the value of them. So do your homework, do your research so that you can really understand that. Okay, so now let's talk about how do you roll out of a mistake when you're kind of just stuck in this position, right? There's always a way to get out of it, and you really have to just put some time and effort into it. So the first way is that you can sell the car personally. Now, from all the research that I've done and what I've seen in my experience is that typically when you sell a car personally and you sell it directly to somebody, you can usually get the highest dollar amount when you take that route. Now, after exploring all of my options, I'm thinking that maybe this is the route that I take because I do want to get the maximum dollar amount possible on this car and get myself out of it. And given the reach that I have and my level of comfort with selling a car personally, I think that that's the route that I'm going to take. So that's number one, is if you sell a car personally, you likely can get the highest dollar amount. But there are other options if you don't want to go through the hassle of, people wanting to come to your location, scheduling people not showing up. So it definitely takes a little bit more work than maybe going through an online platform or going to like a CarMax. But for me, for the goal that I'm trying to reach, I think personally is going to be the way to go. Now, your second option is going through an online platform that really specializes in buying used cars. And more recently, if you do your research online, you'll notice that we've seen a huge surge in platforms like this popping up. And now it has actually been one of the rare times where the used car market is incredible. Cars are going for record high prices because there's just not enough supply in the market. So these companies are really competing to buy your car, which is great because they are offering top dollar for it. So two very popular platforms right now are Carvana and the other one is Vroom. And then you have also other options as well, such as Car Guru, and then there's Doug DeMuro's Cars and Bids. So there's just so many ways that you can go about this. Now, I did look into Carvana and I looked into Vroom, two very popular sites that specialize in buying used cars. One of the things that I noticed, and even from doing a little bit of research and kind of reading the forums and other people's experiences, is that typically it looks like Carvana is offering a little bit more money than Vroom is. From my calculations for my car, Carvana was offering me about 5.5% more than Vroom. So that was pretty cool. It's good to know that, they are being competitive like that. Now, the nice thing about going through one of these platforms is that they make it so easy. They literally give you an offer on the spot. They'll schedule to come have the car picked up, and it's just so convenient, especially given sort of the times that we're in right now. Now, another thing is that these are also, I should just mention, great platforms to purchase cars off of as well. Some of these platforms do no credit check, which is, something that people are looking for. Maybe you don't have the best credit, but you want to get started on Turo. So I would definitely recommend looking into Carvana or Vroom to purchase your next car. And if you're in a local market, I know Carvana does free delivery, which is really neat too. So it's just amazing what technology and companies exist out there that you can really utilize for your benefit and to kind of help you get started on platforms like Turo. So I think it's definitely worthwhile looking into whether you're looking to sell your car or you're looking to purchase a car. Both of these platforms are a great way to go. And finally, my third option is that I could take my car in, I could take it to a dealership that I purchased it from, or I can go to a different brand and I can trade it in. If you're familiar at all with selling cars, then you might already know that trading in a car is sometimes some of the worst value that you can get for your car. And it's not really the greatest position to be in, but if you're looking to get into another car, you go back to the dealership that you purchased this one from. Oftentimes they are really willing to work with you and to kind of help you figure out how you can position yourself better and into a different car. Now, one of the things that is really, really interesting that I learned years ago when I traded in one of my Corvettes for actually a BMW is that one of the things that dealerships can do to help bring up the value of your trade-in is they will evaluate their auction portfolio. So of course they're taking in all these cars that either get traded in, maybe they're coming back from leases and they're reselling them elsewhere, not necessarily at the dealership. So that is sort of what makes up their auction portfolio, or at least as far as my understanding goes. Maybe some of you guys know better out there, but from what I saw, this is kind of how it worked. And so when I was trading in my Corvette, they were giving me less than what I was asking for. And so after kind of just negotiating with them back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, my sales guy eventually was like, hey, look, there's just nothing else we can do. So I remember telling him, well, let me talk to your finance manager. There surely must be some more room to give me more value for this car, because this car does actually perform well and it sells well in the resale market. After talking to the finance manager, he came back to me and told me that, you know what, he looked at their auction portfolio as a whole, and that their auction portfolio had been performing so well that they could actually in the end budge a little bit more on the trade-in value of the Corvette. So they ended up giving me what I was asking for, and it put me in a really great position to get into my next car. So the moral of that story really is that so much of this stuff is really to the discretion of the people that you're sort of dealing with. And try not to take no for an answer. Really know your numbers and know where you need to land at, and try to talk to every possible person that is a part of the process so that they can help you get to where you're trying to go, and just don't give up on that. I learned something new. I never even knew they had auction portfolios. I never even knew that they could factor that into the deal, and they did, and that was really awesome. And should I ever be in that position again, should I consider trading in this 640i, I mean, that is something that I will definitely tap into to really help work the deal into my favor. So you just never know what options are available out there to you, but what you can do is you can sell a car personally. You can go through one of these online platforms like Carvana or Vroom or Car Gurus, or you can trade in the car and see if you can find better value in the next vehicle that you get into. But I would really love to get your guys' opinion on this. What do you guys think I should do? Another option is, obviously, I could just hang on to the car. We are anticipating a huge summer surge this year on the Turo marketplace just as a whole, and I think what I anticipate is that the next couple of years are actually going to be really very, very, very busy. So I could just sort of ride out these slow months that we've been experiencing because of everything that's been going on, and as the restrictions loosen up, business should pick up. So I could just hang on to the car and, you know, turn it into something that could potentially be profitable. Or do I just cut my losses now and not take on any more depreciation of the car from any additional usage and just get out of it now and get into something else? So I don't know, guys. What do you guys think? I would love to read the comments on this one and get your guys' opinion on what I should do next. And of course, you guys already know that if I am going to sell a car, I will definitely be getting into other cars. So hopefully that's some news that I can share in next week's video with you guys. Once again, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and if you did like this video, make sure to subscribe to my channel. My name is Saimah. This is Saimah's Experience. Be sure to like this video. Take care, guys.